Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial, and in this tutorial we are going to be making some SolidWorks animation. So we are going to be making use of this very assembly, and this assembly contains three separate parts, and what I intended to do is to ensure that the animation give some visual effect around this very model in a more appealing way, and also I'm going to make some explosion and collapse function in animation. So everything will be done simultaneously, whereby it will look like a real animation. So we're going to do that by making sure that everything is set in place. So the first thing you're going to do is that by default your model is actually in fix. So try and make sure that your model is moving, because like mine right now, mine right now is moving. So if yours is not moving, you just try to right click and make sure that this side should be as float, right? So if yours is at float, you just leave it like that. But if yours is fixed, make this press here so that it's going to become float. So that's how we're going to do it. So the next thing we're going to do is that I'm going to set a parameter where I can create a pathway for the camera to rotate around this very model, and it can be achieved by this. So you draw a circle on this very plane, and now at this point I know some of you will be wondering, is it possible to draw a path inside a SolidWorks assembly? Yes, because SolidWorks assembly make provision for you to draw your plane, and the plane in assembly means so many things, and part of it is what I'm trying to use for my animation. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to extend this circle so that the camera will round the model in a more stunning way. So after doing that, you check below, you see your motion study, you click your motion study, and then these are the timeline, and these are the command, and these are the animation parts. So make sure that you go to this section that is light and camera, then you right click, then another dialog will show with you where it's going to you see some certain items. So what you're going to do is that you go to your camera, then once you go to your camera, you'll notice that the screen has been divided into two. So what SolidWorks is trying to let us know is that this is actually the path, this is actually your SolidWorks file, and this is how it's going to look like once in an preview animation state. So this is where we're going to do our editing, and this is actually the preview of what is going to be designed. So now we've reached this very section. So in this section you can see that I was able to move this model to any direction by just simply pressing your roller, and then you drag your mouse. So you drag it in a way that it's actually facing you. Now I want to make sure that the camera focuses on this very knot. So once you check this section, you will see options where you can configure your camera. Now you will see a section like aim at tangent, floating, show numerical controls. So each of them has their various functions. So what I'm going to focus on is aim at tangent. So when it shows target point, it gives us the option, it gives us the chance whereby we are going to focus our camera in a particular model, whereby whenever the camera moves around this perimeter, it's going to focus on this very very part to this very point where it's touching it. So once you selected this model, you move straight down, you select the camera position. So the position should be the parameter that we formed. So I'm just going to click any part of the circle. Now you can see that our model now is already taking form, but this thing you see over here is not how it's supposed to look like. I want to make sure that this camera will make sure that this body will be placed correctly. So to achieve that, you move down, you see camera rotation, then you click the section, then you come closer, and then you just click the plane of this surface. Now that our camera now has gotten a parameter, is pointing to a tangent, and now it is now inclined in a very straight line. So there's no longer a point where the bend or irregular view will be shown anymore. So now this is actually what we have for us, and this is the preview. But notice that the preview shows us that the camera is focusing on this very model, but the rest of the model is not showing. So how do we achieve that? You keep going down, then you see a section that shows something like a theta, but it's actually not theta, it's actually view angle. So the view angle, from the view angle, I'm going to correct, or I'm trying to increase the view angle so that the camera will capture the entire surface, leaving nothing behind. So you can see that as I press this button over here, the view gets smaller, where every of the parts can be fitted inside this screen. So once I'm done achieving that, I just press OK. Now you can see that we are now in camera mode, right? So this is actually everything that the model has for us. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to drag the timeline. That is, I'm coming to my timeline, then go to the bar over here, and I will drag this thing up to 14 seconds. So this is 40 seconds. So once I've gotten there, I take my arrow to this section. So notice wherever I move this my arrow, it actually indicate a box. That is, in this section, it indicates that there's a box at this place which is titled ambient. But when I move down, you see that the box keep changing in respect to the position of the arrow. So once you've gotten here, you make sure that the box touches this camera. So once it has touched the camera over here, then you right click. Once you right click, you see another options. So among the options, you click place key. Now in this place key, we have now given a timeline where the camera can move. That is the start and the end time where the camera will move. Now that we've given it the time where the camera will stop at 40 seconds, so we are going back to the camera. Once you go back to the camera, you right click, then you now go to your property, and then you click your property. So you just zoom out. You do not need to touch anything around this view again, because we have gotten a correct orientation of our model. So what you're going to do is that you're going to go down, and then you see this camera position, and then you see a display here which shows us the position of the camera. That is, the position of this camera can be depicted by this section you see here. So I'm going to drag this thing to 100. Now once you drag, you can see that the way I drag it, the camera positions start moving around the circle, and then at the same time this model now turns to turn to the other side. So I'm going to drag it to 100, and then we are now satisfied that this camera now is now in place. So once you are done, I will click click this side over here. So now you will see a strange line from this camera to this very key. It shows that we have initialized our camera. The camera will be able to run for only 14 seconds, but there's something you need to know, that the camera is not yet activated. So I'm going to activate the camera by going up, scrolling up, then go to your orientation, and then you right click. Once you right click, you see a box, dialog box, where you're going to see some key items. So what the items that you're going to go to is view orientation. Once you go to view orientation, then you press camera. So once you are done, you can see that we have activated this line to become from blue to something greenish with some light orange stripe around it. So we can see now that everything is now done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to press this button, which is called calculate. So I'm going to press calculate. Now what this calculation done is that it's going to read through the line and cross-check your work, making sure that the animation is now done and is in place. So now we are now from there, we see that our first step is done, that is, our camera was able to rotate around this model in a more appealing way. So the next thing, the thing that we're going to do now is that we are going to give it another camera. We're going to give it another camera, but the aim of that camera is to ensure that it does separate things. So from this what I've done so far, you can see that Solidworks it has so many things that we might not be able to consume in this program, but we're going to be fast as possible in order to achieve what we got here to do. So now the next thing I'm going to do now is to give it another camera. Mind you, we can see that we have camera 1. So what you're going to do is that we're going to scroll up. So before I continue, this is another thing you need to know. Your animation will work very well if you have your mouse. If your mouse is not with you, I'm sorry, it's going to be very, very difficult to operate it. So that's something that you need to pay attention to. So we've got it to light and camera, then you right click. Once you right click, you see add camera, then you press add camera. Now camera 2 is already formed. So I'm going to zoom out, and then I press my roller, then I position my mouse in a way that this thing will be very easy for us to take a look. So this is actually our camera 2 now. We're no longer in camera 1. That is, a camera 2 is now will be shown when we save this thing. So from our last camera, we choose this thing. So what it means is that the next camera will use the previous camera as the initial position. So you remember that this is the position we once used for camera 1. So this is the position you're going to see in the next camera. So it is left for us to now configure the camera in a way that we are going to use it for a different purpose. So now what I intended to do is that I want to make this knot and this knot to go up. So the camera shouldn't be focused on this knot any longer. Rather, it should be focused on this surface. So this is the surface where the camera should be focused, not this not any longer. So because of that, the name is now changed to part AA. Mind you, once I click the knot, it's going to change to part BB, because we have changed the position to another place. But once I click this plate again, the view has been turned back to this very plane. So that's something that you're gonna have to know. So the next thing to do is you go to this section, that is the camera position. So we are going to initialize the camera to 0. So I know that at this point you might not get the whole concept, but you just follow my step and then everything will be just fine. So the camera rotation, by default we've clicked the camera rotation to be on this very point, so it has been stored there as my initial, so I do not need to go back there any longer. Then I'm going to try to I'm trying to take make my view a little bit smaller so that it can cover the whole section. So once you are done with this whole thing, then I'm going to click this, and then as you can see, our camera tool is already formed, and the camera tool goes by its own special key. So if you can take a look, this key over here has taken up this timeline, that is from 0 seconds to 14 seconds. Camera 1 has covered the entire scene. So I want to move my camera 2 to start from 14 seconds down to 20 seconds. So how can that be achieved? You just take your arrow to this section below and you press copy. Once you copy, that is the command we gave to camera 2 has now been copied, and then it is placed at 14 seconds. So now we see this thing as though we have seen this thing, but we're no longer making use of this any longer. We're going to make sure that the camera, this becomes the initial at 14 seconds. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag this thing to 20 seconds. Now in 20 seconds, I'm going to place another key. Mind you, as I move this arrow, the box over here moves, right? So I'm just going to move this camera over here, then I right click, then I place a key at this section. Once I place the key, I go back to my camera again, and then I press property. So it has taken us back to where we used to be. Then I go straight to this very section, and then I move this thing over here again. I move it to 100. So at that very point, the camera has now been assigned to something very different. So now you can see that camera 2 now has been initialized by some kind of sky blue stripe from this point to this point, but at this very point there is nothing. It has not been activated. So in order for me to activate it, I'm just going to drag my bar to this section, and then I place a key over here. Once I place the key over here, then I press calculate. So I'm going to calculate everything. That is, I'm going to ensure that Solidworks read the whole animation process, so that it's going to cover everything just like a film. So once it is done, I just right click, then go to my view rotation and click camera 2. Now from here I will just drag my motion back, then I play from here. Now we have now entered camera 2. Now camera 2 is now giving us another form of rotation, just as similar to camera 1, right? So after this has been done, I will just shift my camera, my bar to this very section, back to 14 seconds. So the thing you're going to do now is I'm going to ensure that these two nuts moves out from the plate and return back respectively. So before I do that, I'm going to deactivate my camera view, that is the camera view, the camera scene is temporarily gone because I intentionally want it to be so. So once I go to my animation screen, I just use my mouse to control my my model to a very convenient location where I can know what to do. So after it has been brought there, I just take my arrow to this section, I right click. Once I right click, initially this is where we are, right? But this section is called configuration manager. This configuration manager has so many functions, and part of it is that it can make your model to move away, scatter away from their location and couple itself back. So in order to achieve that, you just go to this box section below, then you right click and you press new animation. So this actually, the next thing we're going to do is that I'm going to click this model, and then I drag it up. Once I'm done, I right click, and then the explosion view is now formed. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click this smaller knot, then I'm going to drag it up as well. Then once I'm done, I just right click, and then everything is now settled. Now we have a Solidworks that has an explosion view of step 1 and step 2, which refers to this second model. So now the next thing we'll do is that I'm going to click this button, and then that's all. I right click again. So okay, so once I'm done, I just check out this button below, and then I press collapse. So everything is now set. So the reason why I did that is that I want to make sure that the implication of what I did will reflect in my SolidWorks animation. So now back to my SolidWorks and my timeline. I will just what I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to go to my animation wizard. So in the animation wizard, I left click, then a dialog display will show in the screen where you will see option of rotate model, explode model, collapse model, and the rest. So I'm going to click explode, and then I click next. So from this explode section, it means that the model will disintegrate to different parts, and then the timeline for the demonstration will begin at 14 seconds. That is, the existing time bar is 14 seconds, and then the duration is just 2 seconds. So whatever you have found, you can change the seconds to any kind of number that you want, but I'm just going to leave it this way, and then I continue. Now once I press finish, you can see that some new set of keys are already formed. That shows to you that our model now can be exploded. So now I'm going to go back and then play the whole section and see what we have so far. Now you can see the camera is rotating. It's rotating around the whole section, and then now we can see that our 2 knot has been left out, and then that is all. So we can leave it like this, or we can further ensure that these 2 knots return back to their respective plates. And how would that be possible? I just drag this bar to this section. I drag this bar to any convenient section, then I just go back to my animation wizard, and then I press collapse and then finish. So from this view, another kind of display has been shown to us, and this display means that these 2 knots can safely return back to their respective location. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to move my time bar back to this section and play again to see what's happening. So now from this demonstration we can see that the bar has been lifted up and now it has returned back to where it's supposed to be. So that you can see that there is a similitude to the video that I posted to the group earlier of how it's supposed to be. So now the next thing I'm going to do now, I want to make sure that this model moves forward and return to its initial state. So how can that be possible? The only way that will be possible is to ensure that I move my model to a certain timeline, and then I disengage this thing to do some kind of function. So just watch closely to see how this can be done. So now before then, I take my key to this section, that is part AA. Part AA means the plate in this place. I copy and then I place it over here at 20 seconds. I place key at 20 seconds. Then the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to my camera tool and then disengage the view, and then the camera view is gone. So the next thing to do is to move this model to any location of your choice. But mind you, the aim of my movement should be in a straight line. It shouldn't deviate from any intended location. I want to make sure that this thing moves from here to here successfully. So I just right click, then I see an option which is called move with triad. So once you got there, you just click the move with triad, then you see a direction of arrow where you have to point to it. So I'm going to move to my x-axis. So I'll just move to my x-axis. Okay, I think this thing is not enough. There have been some kind of mix-up. Okay, now the model is now moved to a particular location. So once it's been done, you just save the model. But before you save the model, there's a mistake I did, and the mistake is that this key were not supposed to be copied yet. I was to ensure that the movement was done before I copy this thing to their respective position. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to delete all these things I see here. I delete them because they do not owe any important details. So I'm going to do it again and see what we're trying to achieve. So I'll just disengage the camera view, and then we are back to how it's supposed to be. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to copy this part. I will copy this part to this section, then copy the second part to this section, you have to be very careful in this aspect because I'll ensure that all the key touches the line. So the third one, I'm going to move it. So I can actually move it by simply dragging, pressing right click on my mouse. I hold it firmly, then I drag it, or you can just copy. I copy it, and then I paste it over this section. Now our model is now moved from, it is now transferred to this very location. So the next thing to do is that I'm going to move my model to 20 to let's say 30 seconds. So this is 30 seconds, and then I place my key. So once I place my key, I place another key over here, and then I place another key over here. So this method is quite complicated, but it's very important you just follow exactly what I did and you do the same thing. So I'm going to calculate everything again. So now you can see the bar moving across every individual part of the line. So with all the combination of the key, everything start moving as it should be. Now you can see that the model is going back. It's going back respectively to its location, and then that is where it ends. So I'm going to disengage my camera view by clicking this section, and then now we see that the model has moved from this center line to this section. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to make sure that this model will turn back to anywhere in the circle, somewhere at least close to the origin, but not origin, because I do not know how to make sure that it is positioned back in origin. So what I'm going to do now, is that I'm going to move this thing to like 35 degree, 35 seconds. Okay, we are back to camera view. So I'm going to disengage my camera view. Then I place my key over here. I place my key over here, and then I place my key over here. I place my key over here. So notice the difference between paste and place key. So it's better, it's good you understand that. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to right click, move with triad, then I drag this thing back to the center of this circle. So I make sure it's at the center, and then that's all. So once I'm done, I will just press calculate, and everything will go smoothly. Now you can see that we are actually getting things very complicated. So now the tool nut is being removed, and then is placed successfully, and then the model is moving backwards, and then finally it's returned back to where it's supposed to come from. So from this you could see that the model can be moved to any location of your choice. You can actually make it to go up, down, side or side, all depending on what to press at the right time. So but for the purpose of this class, I'm just going to ensure that the model stop at this very section, and everything can be represented by all of these keys. So as I've said by my last class, all these keys will depict the activities that was done on this animation. So anything that was done, any step that was taken, everything will be displayed with their respective stripe and their respective key. So that's actually one of the things that you need to consider while making a Solidworks. So this model just has only 3, but if you have like 100 components, it all will be listed below. So everything we're going to be doing is going to affect all of the model. So once we are done, then once you are done, then we can see that our model is now ready to be saved. So what I'm going to do now, is I want to save it to MP4 so that we can save it to our external device. So you just go to your save, then you click. Once you click, it's going to give us the title for our model. Make sure you do not touch any of this line, because if you touch this thing, it's going to cause some malfunction, hence your model cannot be saved. So the title that you was just leave it as it should be, So I go to I press this section, I click this the direction below, then you see MP4. Once you click MP4, then the resolution is now converted into MP4. So anything that you can do can be adjusted, but if adjusted the wrong way, your model will not be saved. So what you do is you just go to your save, and then you save, and everything will start working. So now you see motion study results are out of date. Do you want to recalculate before saving? Click yes. So now the motion will start reviewing all the processes, like recording all the steps that was done on the screen and then taking it to your external file. So it's going to take some time, but it's worth waiting. Let's see how it's going to go. So you see that it takes some level of time, but it's actually what is necessary for this model to work successfully. Now that we are almost there, okay, so from the look of things, it seems our model is completed. Okay, this thing happens normally, especially when your system is not a stronger system. So just disregard any of that. Then after that, you just go to your file manager, you go to your quick access, and then the title that was saved in animation, in Solidworks file, will be used to save it as the MP4 file. So you just right click and see what it has for us. Now you can see now that we have an animation in Solidworks. So this animation is actually the method of this teaching is to it's actually a straightforward process, but behind the instruction there are so many things that you need to learn along the line. But due to the limited program for this training, we can't cover all that. But I want you to just follow all the key steps that was made, and if you do that correctly, your model is done. So now as it's all done, you can see that our model now is completed and is now finished. So in this aspect, we could say that our animation now is already formed and it has been saved to our external file, and that is all for everything. So is that we could say that we've reached the end of this class, and I've done my best to teach you some instruction in order to achieve this. So now thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and see you next time.